Okay. Hi, and thank you so much for being here today. My name is Amy Bryant of Parenting Beyond Punishment and here in Atlanta, Georgia, Wild Child Counseling. And I am just really excited to have special guest with us today, Jennifer Lehr, the author of ParentSpeak, What's Wrong with How We Talk to Our Children and What to Say Instead. Jennifer is a child advocate, a parent, teacher, educator, and a coach. She speaks and facilitates workshops for educators, and you can purchase her latest book, ParentSpeak, at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com. Thank you so much for being here, Jennifer. I'm so excited.
Me too, Amy. I'm so happy to finally meet you in person.
Me too.
After following you for all these years.
I mean, we've really been in touch for a long time, I think.
I know. Probably 5-6 years is my guess.
I know. I love it.
And this is our first face-to-face chat.
It's so great. It is. It's so great.
Technology.
I know. I know. So I love this topic. I love that you wrote about this topic and that you're talking about this. And I love to talk to you about this. Though, of course, it's always been on, Facebook usually, right?
Right.
So let's talk about this. Why do our words matter?
Why do our words matter?
Yeah.
Because as you know, when we're young, our brains are forming, and what we hear, we take as truth. We don't have the advanced level of thinking to be able to, if somebody says you're an idiot, and your parent keeps telling you you're an idiot, basically you believe that you're an idiot. You're not able to reason, did I do something that made me an idiot? You just believe it. And if the messages that get wired into your brain as a young child, you carry with you your whole life. Unless you can rewire your brain, as you know, but it takes a lot of very concerted effort. And that's very hard to come by. My husband's a recovering alcoholic. He's sober 21 years, and he sponsors a lot of guys. And that means basically the 12 steps takes you through the process of rewiring your brain. And it is a struggle. So as much as we can get it right as possible when they're young, the better. Because you don't want to go around life thinking you're an idiot and then having to come later on, and really rethink that and re-believe it. Because the messages become who we think we are as young children. They're really hard messages to record over. So as thoughtful as we can be with the way we talk to children, I think the better.
Yeah. Oh, I so agree. It's just, those messages, it literally gets wired into the lower brainstem. And that is something that's the first part of the brain to develop. And it's almost hardwired. So yeah, just like you said, let's give them a better chance. Let's really find the best language to use. Not that we're not going to make mistakes, of course.
Let me just tell you a quick little story. My neighbors are leaving for South America for 6 months. They're calling it a family sabbatical. And the father speaks some Spanish, but he is wanting to brush up on it. And he said, looking on the internet now, because he hasn't studied it since he was in his 20s, he said, everything has changed about studying languages. They don't recommend you study it in school. You just need to immerse yourself and you will speak the language. And that's what I think about ParentSpeak. Nobody set out to speak in this way that adults speak to children, but it's in the ether, it's in our culture, so we speak it because we're immersed in it. And we didn't choose to speak it. And so I certainly don't blame anybody for the way that we talk to children, because it is our culture, it's the dominant culture. But the opportunity to look at what we say and how children take it in is what I have really done with the book. And in short, the message is that I think when I've really looked at the way adults talk to children is that we're unnecessarily controlling and patronizing, and we don't realize it, and we have the best of intentions.
It's so true. I love that story you tell. It makes so much sense. So the idea is, how do we begin to change the culture so that we can be immersed in something different?
Right. I thought about that a lot in writing this book. It took me 10 years to write ParentSpeak, to the inception of the idea and for it to come out. And what I landed on, and if you'll see in my book, this is the book, ParentSpeak, I separate, every chapter is a phrase, a parenting catchphrase that we kind of all knee-jerkly say, that we don't, it's just one of, good job, you're so cute. And a lot of them seemingly innocuous, and we're trying to encourage them with good job and teach them to be generous by telling them to share and telling them to say sorry so they will learn remorse and consideration. But so my way of going in was to just look at these phrases that we commonly say to see if our best intentions are translating. And that was just a very kind of, they always say to change the world, you have to change yourself. And I thought if I could just hone in on the things that we say all the time, and that would be a way to rethink them. Like once you read a chapter on good job and you start saying good job, you don't say it in the same way anymore. Ignorance truly is bliss.
Because then you're not going, good job. Oh, gosh, I said it again.
Right. But then after a few times, once you become aware and you make a few shifts, it's incredible how your world can change.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be overwhelming. We're not learning a whole new language. We're almost just losing some.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Right? We're just sort of getting out those scissors and sort of clipping away superfluous language and becoming more conscious of it.
Yes, we can get in detail into the phrases, but I had some cousins in for the Jewish holidays the last few days, and they have younger children, and the anxiety I could see that they felt, at a new home, the parents felt wanting the children to behave well, and they were wanting them to just be able to play, but just removing ourselves is often the best thing. Like, you don't have to say, do you want to go in the treehouse now? Do you want to go on to this? Do you want to do that? Just let them be. So often it is just not, silence is golden. But
yes, in some ways we just
position.
Right. You mean I can just sit here and breathe? Okay.
Yeah, it's a world of difference.
Right. Yeah, I mean, how many times do we step in and our own worries about, are they going to break something, just makes them tense right up?
Yes, too. They just read us. And, I can be a very anxious person. And I really have to set myself up for going to places and set my kids up for me. Yes. Your mother is anxious in these situations. Right. Don't take it personally.
Yes. But isn't that so key? Like, this is going on for me, and just letting them know this isn't about you. You don't have to take this personally. You are not to blame.
Yes, because I think it takes generations to break habits and cycles. And I don't want to have a low bar, but if I can just not pass, maybe my children aren't going to I think what I am happy is that they have that distance on my behavior to not take it personally.
Right.
Just that. Maybe I can't stop myself from losing it, but they can know that it's not about them. It's not their problem. It's mine. Yeah. So that's the step.
Right. They're not getting the message, I'm causing problems. I'm bad.
Right. It's my mom has a hard time with this, and she's working on it, hopefully.
Well, and also as moms, us, but then parents and caregivers, it's not our fault either. We've been immersed in this culture, as you so eloquently put it, and we've gotten these messages, and we can just be kind to ourselves and say, I'm not going to always get it right. I'm not always going to say the right thing or respond well. And I have to be nice to myself and kind and offer myself grace.
Right. It's a process. Yeah. And yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about some of those common phrases.
Okay.
And if you're here and you want to chat about some common phrases in the chat room or ask specific questions, please do. There's a chat and a Q&A. So go ahead, Jennifer.
I'd love to hear what maybe you'd like to start with, but can I give a list of what the phrases that are in the book?
Sure, yeah, that sounds awesome.
Often I'll do a talk and I'll say, really, who wants to hear what? And it's interesting.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. So please, if you're listening right now, Jennifer will read them. And if you want to hear about something specific, please let us know.
But here are the phrases that I look at in my book, ParentSpeak. And I think the first one is the signature phrase of the modern American parent, which is "good job." Another one is "who's my big boy" or "who's my big girl," and "you're so cute," and "come on, give grandma a kiss." Mm-hmm. "Be careful." "Can you say thank you?" "Share." "Say sorry." "I'm gonna tickle you." "Come on, you're okay." "Behave yourself." "I said right now." And "do you want a timeout?" And then "do you want a spanking?" Mm-hmm. And so those are the phrases that I look at. And in the book, I divide them into categories of phrases that manipulate children, objectify children, micromanage children, what distresses them and invalidates them and threatens them. So those are the phrases. And you tell me where you want to start.
I'm writing all this down. I love this. Things that manipulate them, objectify them,
micromanage,
threaten them, micromanage them,
invalidate.
Yes.
And threaten.
Yes. Okay. Right? And it's hard to conceptualize these words as those things because we do have the best intentions.
It is. It's so hard to put ourselves in our children's shoes. I mean, that's the one thing that I always want people to walk away with is if they can for 5 minutes put themselves into their children's shoes. Mm-hmm. It's so hard. How would you feel if someone said this to you? Mm-hmm. And we think they're different because they're children, but they're not. They're just alive less years, but they still experience it the way we would experience it.
Right.
Would you like me to, at the end of this, "Amy, you didn't say thank you to me. Can you please say thank you to me for me giving you this hour to be on this show? Amy, can you please say thank you?"
I have a really funny story. Forgive me, Mom, for sharing this. So I was, like 9 months pregnant at this baby shower that my mom's friends were giving me. Mm-hmm. And I had literally just closed up the last box and my mom turns to me and she goes, "What do you say?" I was 35 years old. "What do you say?" I think I shot daggers at her because I was like, are you kidding me? Right? But
she's
that
so
is exactly it. She's so used to it.
And we think it tells the child we have no faith in them to act like a human being who's considerate and appreciative.
Right.
And to publicly humiliate them at the same time.
Right. Which of course was not my mom's.
Of course, she wants you to just be polite, but it's such an inconsiderate way about going to cultivating consideration. And I have to say, of all the chapters, the most blowback I get is on this one topic.
Really?
I have to tell my kids to say thank you. I can't let them leave the house without it. I can't.
Yeah.
And I kind of look at my argument in the chapters over and over again to say, what am I not conveying here?
Yeah.
And that's why pretty much every talk I give, I go into the audience and say, "Can you thank me for giving you this talk?" Because how does it feel?
Oh, I was irate. I almost wanted to be like, "I'm not saying thank you. You can't make me," right?
Of course. And now what are you going to, how do her friends feel like that you're saying thank you? Thank you.
Because
Oh,
I
you're
was
welcome,
prompted.
Amy. It's like an elephant in the room, and everybody is
Right.
agreeing to go by these crazy scripts.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just.
Yeah. And, you know, I think a lot of parents think, I want people to know that my kid is worthy of love, right? That I have a good kid. I want them to love my kid the way I do. And if they're not showing gratitude and they're not thankful, they're not going to love my kid like I do.
And I do think another part of it is they want to show everybody else that they're raising their children to be polite.
It's that other part. Am I good enough? Am I a good enough parent? And those are tough things to wrestle with.
And my solution, one of the things that I offer, I think a great way to handle it is if your child hasn't thanked somebody the way that you would like them to, is to be their wingman and to model it and jump in to make them look good. Thank you so much for having Jules over. I know she loves being here. Jules, wasn't it great that you got to hang out for 3 hours at this house? You are such a love to have her, and we're so thrilled to be here.
Yes.
Hopefully you'll come over soon. And then she'll be like, yeah, thanks. You know, just show them how you want them to be, and maybe she'll get it in 3 months or in a year. But if
or by the time they're 35, right.
I mean,
absolutely. I love
but this idea that the second we pause and want them to say it and they haven't said it, that they have to say it at that moment. Right. Maybe they had already said it in the kitchen. We don't know. Maybe we don't know. Right. And it's so humiliating for the children. But so many children are treated that way. They believe that they deserve to be treated that way, that that's who they are, someone who has to be told what to say, when to say it, and what will happen to them if they don't say it.
Right.
And so I just say model it and be their wingman, help them look good. And if it's very critical to you to tell your child what to say, do it out of the earshot of the person to be thanked. Honey, do you want to thank them?
Yeah.
And then they could thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Great. Yeah. Just not in front of the person, because to be so publicly controlled is for anybody humiliating.
Yeah. I love what you said too, and I don't know if you heard yourself say it, so to speak, but you said like we can make our kids look good, right? I love that we actually can make them look good. It's the behind the scenes work as they're developing these skills.
Yes, absolutely.
And I love that.
Good, me too. we're on the same team.
Yes, right.
So another friend
wants to make each other. Yes, please do.
How about who's my big boy, or who's a big girl? This one is interesting because what we want so often when we say this is for the child to encourage them to move on to whatever the next step is. We want them to stop sucking their thumb. Big boys don't suck their thumb. Or we want them to get out of the crib because we have a baby coming and we want them to be in their big boy bed, or lose their training wheels, or stop carrying a blanket around. Big boys don't do that. Yeah. And so often it's because it's what we want when we want it. Has nothing to do with when they are ready to take that step. Yeah. And it would be impossible for us to know when the right moment is, but they know. And we lose trust in our children. And often it's around potty training, and people want their kids out of diapers for a lot of reasons. Diapers are bad for the environment. It's a pain to change diapers, but it's so much about what we want and not the child. And children will make all those steps when they're ready to. And it's so hard to trust that because our culture tells us not to. And so we push them ahead before they're ready. And then we want to put the brakes on. You're too young to go on a date. You're too young for that movie. You're too young to do all of these things, but you have to be older. You have to be younger. We have a hard time accepting people where they are at and what they're capable of. And I would really, people want to make children excited about the move to the big boy bed instead of honoring how they feel. Maybe you don't seem ready. It's there. You can try it when you're ready. And it's so hard for us to let our children lead the way. But I really encourage parents to do that. I've lost sound. Can you hear me?
I had it on mute, sorry.
Oh, okay.
There's little walking feet, and I was like, I'll just mute it. It is really hard. Again, it's being immersed in this culture that's telling us where they should be developmentally. Have they reached these milestones? And we forget that there's this wide, fluid way of developing each in our own way.
I can tell a little story to illustrate that. My son and his best friend are 14 days apart. They live behind us. And they've been together since they were born. They both have older sisters. His friend Julian started using a toilet on his own at 18 months. He saw his sister do it, and he just walked into the bathroom and did it ever since then, but only during the day. He wore diapers until he was about 5 at night. My son had the inverse experience. He never wanted to be out of diapers. He stopped wearing diapers on his own right before he was 5. But at night, he stopped wearing diapers at 3. Around 3. And they had sleepovers all the time. And at night, my son Hudson would say to Julian, would you like to wear one of my diapers to go to bed? And he said, oh no, I have my own kind because they are so thick. I need the extra thick diapers at night. Then Julian, who was potty trained and never wore diapers during the day, put on the diaper to get into bed. Hudson would take his off and put on his pajamas. Then they got in bed next to each other, slept for the night. Hudson would wake up, use the toilet, put on his diaper for the day. Julian would take it off. And they weren't judging each other. One wasn't a big boy during the day and big boy at night. And they just were 2 3-year-olds helping each other meet their own needs wherever they were at.
Right.
And totally accepting.
Right. There was no imposed rules about who should and shouldn't be doing what. And how freeing is that?
They were so accepting. And this is what you're doing. This is what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And now they're 9 or almost 9, and they both don't wear diapers anymore. Right. It ends on their own.
Right.
Yeah. So
and it's hard to let that go.
It is. It's hard because so many preschools, you can't even go there if your child is still in diapers. And it's almost telling these children, a lot of children do start using the toilet when they're 2, but a lot start when they're 3. So it's telling them you can't go to a school, you can't play, make friends, do all these things because you can't control your bladder. It's kind of crazy.
It's so shaming.
It's so shaming. And it's like you can't force a child to walk by a certain age.
Right.
Nope, you're 13 months now, you have to be walking.
Right.
But we do that for their bodily functions, and you can hurry it along, but it can have a lot of negative repercussions. And a lot of children start holding their feces, and that can lead to a lot of problems. So, it's hard to trust your child, but I would trust them to lead the way on all of these things.
Right. And that also shows us, the more they're able to control, the less they want to dig in with us.
Exactly.
Right? Part of that
so
stepping
true.
back and being quiet, like you said. It's okay to just be quiet and watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Another phrase?
Yes.
How about behave yourself? That's a big one.
Oh, yes. What does that even mean?
I know, it's a crazy phrase. I don't know how often people actually say it anymore, but the meaning behind it, we certainly set across. We want our children to behave, and meaning we want them we want them to be quiet. We want them to be quiet, sit still, when we want them to sit still and not cause problems for us. It's really about us, because what you might have a tolerance for, kids playing loudly in your living room, might drive me crazy. So I would ask them to move outside. But everybody has a different tolerance level. So it's more about what works for different people in different situations. And But it's so interesting because we all are behaving all day long. That's what we do. We're all in a constant state of behavior. That's what we are. And the funny thing is, and even therapists and psychologists whose work I totally admire and whose philosophy I believe in still use the word misbehavior. Yes. And I think it's a dated word as much as so many words that we now think of as dated. I can't think of an example, but that we would no longer use.
Right.
I think we need to retire misbehavior because it's a misnomer.
It is.
Behavior is always accurate, so it can't be miss. Miss means wrong, but behavior is an accurate reflection of what a person needs and how they're trying to meet that need, of their most pressing need at that moment. Mm-hmm. And that's the hard concept to wrap your head around. It's simple, but very profound. And I think kind of understanding it changed my thinking in my life.
Yes.
And see if I can explain it in a way that's easily accessible. But here's an example. My son, when he was very young, was very sensitive. My daughter wasn't like this at all. So we would have big parties before he was born, and she loved it, and it was very lively and active. And when he was young and we had a lot of people over, he would cry all the time. As he got a little older, he would hit people, and he would cause so much trouble. And he would always climb on my husband's shoulders, and he would stay there and he would be calm. But my husband could only carry him on his shoulders for so long. He didn't want to spend a 2-hour party with a kid on his shoulders, getting people drinks. And so we thought, why isn't he behaving? It was just, what can we do to get him off our shoulders and just chill out? Mm-hmm. And another example of what he would do is when he started preschool, all the children played, but he sat on the deck and watched for 3 months. Oh, wow. Everyone play before he went out and played. It took us too long to figure out that he was all his behavior. And once somebody did something to him that really scared him, and he bit the person, and he bit somebody maybe twice a year until he was 4 or 5. And we thought, oh my God, it was so horrifying. But he wasn't bad. He was trying to keep himself safe. He was climbing on my husband's shoulders to keep safe. He stayed on the deck to keep safe. Yeah. He bit the kid to keep himself safe because he was overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And so all his behavior was a reflection of his need to keep himself safe, to express his need for safety and to meet it. And as soon as we stopped having big parties, he could be down and play. He just couldn't handle groups of people. And he stayed on the deck because once he took him 3 months to know where all 20 kids, what their playing style was, how they played. And when he knew who was safe to engage with, he went right out and played the rest of the year.
Right.
But all his behavior was trying to meet that need.
Yes. That makes so much sense. And in 2 hours, you don't have time to see what everybody's doing around you.
No, it takes a lot. There were a lot of kids in that class, probably too many. And for someone who had such a need to feel safe in ways that other kids don't have, right. Every child is so different.
Yeah.
And another quick example of that is my friend had a 2-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a baby. And every morning was a nightmare for him. It never had been before. But once he had the baby, when he would get the kids ready, dressed in the morning, the other one was going to go to preschool when the babysitter came to watch the baby. And every single morning, the 2.5-year-old climbed up on their dining room table and shook their chandelier. And it was an expensive chandelier. And he was like, tables aren't for standing. You can't have your feet on the table. That's going to break. And he'd take them off. And his son would just climb right back up, and he would get so enraged. He's like, get off the table. Yeah. And he'd always be so relieved when the babysitter walked in so he could just leave the door and get out at the door with his son. But he would be so angry at him the whole way to preschool. Like, why can't you not do that? And then he kind of got this idea, was introduced to the idea of needs and behavior trying to express and satisfy a need. And then he thought to himself, the next time he did it, what need is he trying to meet? And he was like, for 2 years, he had my full attention every morning. And now I'm focused on this baby and feeding him. And so he said he probably had a need for belonging, to be a part of the family. And he said to his son, would you like to help feed the baby? And he got right off the table, sat next to him, and fed the baby every morning. He never had to ask him to get off the table. He never had to, he just had to meet the need.
Yes. And
so the kid wasn't bad. He wasn't misbehaving.
No.
He was behaving in a way that was accurate in his attempt to meet his need. He was trying to tell his dad, he's only 2.5. He couldn't think through, I need this, I need that. He was doing it the best way he knows how.
Absolutely.
Based on his age, cognitive development, and information he was given, and level of nurture, I think. But so that's a story that helps me keep in my head, what need is this behavior trying to meet, and can calm you down and not get so angry at your child.
Right. They're not out to get us.
Right. And it can make just being curious can calm you down, and then you can start problem solving with them.
Right. It's funny how that very sort of shift of, wait, what's going on, of becoming curious, does or can, and it's not always, but lower sort of that emotional arousal we have. We're so angry, they're doing something, and then they're trying to get our goat or push our buttons, but wait a second, let me get really curious. What is going on? And I feel a little bit better. What is going on? That's a shift.
Absolutely.
You know what I want to talk about?
What?
Can we talk about be careful?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I wish I had a picture to show you right now. You've been on my Facebook page. You've seen what my son does. You can't believe.
Can we show that video?
Yes. Can you?
Let me see if I can pull it up.
See if you can pull it up, because I don't have my phone in front of me.
You talk about the word while I look. How does that sound? Okay.
Be careful is the surest way to make anxious children, to not believe in their own ability to trust their body. Because we've been alive, humans, for a couple 100,000 years, and the way we survive is because we are careful. And we've been given all of these senses, sight and sound and touch, and they say there's more than the senses we know of. And they're always giving us information. So it's almost impossible for anybody to read a situation as well as we can. Certainly there are instances, and we can make somebody aware of something, but human beings know how tight they have to hold onto the bar to support their body. They can feel if the ground underneath them is stable. And so often we don't want our children to get hurt. So be careful. But first of all, be careful of what? We're not specific. You say, do you see the ledge at the end of the driveway or whatever? So that you're specifically saying what you'd like them to notice. But when we tell children to be careful, they may be climbing and then be careful, what? And then they fall. Because you've taken their attention away from where it needs to be, which is focusing on keeping them safe. And so often the things, God, I love how, I think it's Peter Gray says this, children learn through playing. That's how they learn, and how they grow strong, and how they learn about gravity. Can't just be told about gravity. You have to experience it. And so and play needs an inherent level of risk. Otherwise, it's not playful. You're not jazzed about it. There's no excitement to it. It's just rote. It's not playing. So it has to be risky, or you're not learning. And you're not growing. You're not getting stronger and wiser and smarter and more careful. If you fall and scrape your knee, then you are, I don't want to do that. Next time I'll do this.
Right. And
So,
kids love to master it. They fall and they're like, no, no. At a certain point, like when they're really little, my daughter would be like, I'm hurt, I'm out. But then it's, wait, no, I'm okay. I don't need you, Mom. I got to try this again.
right. And
let
so,
me master it.
Yeah, they want to keep going, or, and they can only they can gauge their comfort level. And as I mentioned earlier in this podcast or webinar, I mentioned I'm an anxious person, and I think I largely inherited that from my mother, who she will readily say that she's anxious too and is not a physically adventurous person. And a lot of that has to do with trust. I don't trust people who are driving. I want to always be driving and be in control. And it's about, being able to sit with the lack of control that you have over a situation. It makes her anxious, makes me anxious. So I was given the gift when my children were little to be introduced to RIE, which is an awkward name, Resources for Infant Educators. But it's this method of raising babies with respect. What I got out of it that was so helpful to such an anxious person was to observe my children while they're playing. It's all about, if I could spend 10 minutes a day observing them, I could see what they were capable of. Yeah. And then that gave me so much information. I didn't have to be worried because I could see, oh, he's trying to do that, then he supports himself that way. And I did that since they were so young, that I had so much confidence in their judgment and in their competence. I could see what they were doing. And also a big thing about RIE is the babies play barefoot. And really, that's such a gift, because nothing is going to ever be better than skin to keep someone safe. Oh my God, here's the video. You got it.
Can y'all see it? Okay, yeah. I fast forwarded just a little bit.
Yeah, this is my son. This is my backyard. And there he goes. This was yesterday when he learned that he could flip off the roof of the garage. Boom, rolls right out, walks, and has a conversation. That's horrifying to people. Right. Sure. But my son, I have so much confidence in his abilities. Not only is he, he's a great flipper and he's so in his body, but he can read a situation and know that is a boy who at 3 years old, when you went to Target and went up the escalator, shook and cried, desperately afraid of heights, wanted to be in the elevator, couldn't handle the escalator, frightened of heights.
Wow.
And he knows his limits. Like, he could only go so far and then could go a little further and then a little further. And he can read a situation. Like, he flipped off of a lifeguard tower when we were at the beach. And I was like, wow. And I was like, try a Webster. It's another kind of flip. He goes, do I look stupid? I would never do a Webster from that. Like, it was so preposterous. Yeah. But to me, it all looks the same. I have no idea what he's doing. He's like, oh, you could side flip that, but you could never Webster it. You could Kong that, but you couldn't vault it. Right. I mean, he's just so in tune with himself.
Yeah. And it's not like he just suddenly climbed up to the roof and started doing stuff. No, he started small. And
for 5 years I've been watching it, and people are always like, how can you let your son do it? And I was like, because I totally trust him to know his body, because I don't know it. And I don't want to tell him what he can tell me what he can't do. Yeah. And so he flips at school, or is not supposed to flip, and like sneaks in a flip. And the school's argument is other kids are going to try it and hurt themselves. And I'm like, no kid's going to try that, because they can't do it.
Yeah, they're not.
They know they can't do it. They just watch them and marvel, but they can't do it because you can just automatically stand up and backflip.
Right.
There's a lot to get there. He practices for hours and hours at a time for years, and he puts cushions, and he adds another one that takes it away. You know what I mean? You just don't get there.
No, it's a build-up.
It's a long
build-up. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Every time I see, I'm just like, oh.
It is amazing, but I am totally confident in him.
And can I also say that I also go, oh, to you?
Oh, thank you.
You
I
know?
mean, I marvel at that I'm that person that's able to do it. But his friend, I don't know if you saw in the video, was up on the roof. That's
On the
Julian, who
backside.
was his best friend, who lives, I mentioned earlier. And he got to the edge of the roof. And I was like, Julian, you can't jump it. He would never try to flip it, but he wanted to jump it. And my daughter said, Hudson didn't know if he could do it yesterday, and he tried it because he felt comfortable. She said, Julian, only if you feel comfortable, don't feel any pressure, but do it if you want. And he jumped it and was able to do it. But I didn't want I know that feeling, you don't want another kid to get hurt on your dime.
Yeah.
He did it, and he didn't feel pressured. And anyways, I think it looks worse than it is.
It's amazing.
It's a pretty sloped roof, but
we had someone comment and say, the longer I'm a parent, my sons are 3 and 5, the more I feel like great parenthood is sometimes the mastery of saying less words.
Beautifully put.
Yeah, I agree. It's really hard to bite our tongues, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a gift to them and us.
It is. And when we're quiet, it gives them time to talk and think through things and get curious.
Absolutely. Another phrase, or are we wrapping up time?
If you guys have questions, please feel free to ask or engage in the chat. I know I've said that a few times. Let's talk about one more.
I see on chats there's a number 3. Does that mean?
Is there a chat?
It says 3.
Oh yeah, so there's 3 up in chat. I wrote 2 things, and then we got one from someone who said that
I see.
About saying
okay. So we want to do one more? Is that?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll give you 3 and you can choose. Do you want to do give grandma a hug? Do you want a timeout, or share?
Oh, I'm really tempted between the hug, body autonomy, and the timeout, threat, scary. Which one do you like the best?
I'll see how. Let me do timeout.
Okay.
And quickly, maybe I can touch on give grandma a hug.
Yeah.
Timeouts. I just wrote a piece on this, and it's in the book. And just to briefly say, I was somebody who was put into timeouts as a child, and I think it has really had a negative effect on my life. And my parents, I think this was the 70s, so I think they were doing their certainly far better than their parents did, and were trying to be parenting from a very enlightened place. Whenever I was, in their eyes, throwing a fit and crying and screaming, they would say I was really welcome to act however I wanted, just as long as I did it in my room, by myself, away from them.
Right.
And so I was sent to my room, another way of saying a timeout. Mm-hmm. And so what that did to me was tell me, the message I got from that is, unless I could act like someone who was happy or smiley or charming or funny, then I wasn't somebody worth being around. I wasn't welcome. And so I got the message, as I was, whenever I was overcome by feelings of anxiety or shame or fear or anger, I was unlovable. And nobody could help me sort through those things. Those are just things I shouldn't feel. Right. And so when you send a child away who's struggling, you're telling them, you're on your own. Good luck figuring that out. And when you're ready to be a human being that I can tolerate, come on back.
Right. That's
just a tragic message to send children, because we all have light and dark sides, and we're all trying to figure things out, and our emotions go up and down all the time. And if we can know that our parents will help us through these things, support us, interested in how we feel, what our behavior is trying to tell them, and how they can solve the problem with us, or just show that they care about us, just goes a long way.
Yeah.
So that is...
And that idea that we have to push our emotions away, like we were pushed away into the room, is so damaging. The more we try to push our emotions away and push them down, it's devastating. It's why we have anxiety and depression and
overeat
and
drink.
eat
smoke.
and drink and spend too much and,
Yeah.
all those things. How do we sit with the discomfort of our own feelings? How do we sit with the discomfort of our children's feelings?
It's so hard. I mean,
Yeah.
I always want to theoretically, and it's so hard. And I know better. I mean, the person I wrote this book for was myself. It's not like me telling you how to be. It's really me saying, this is what my goals are. And so I'm clear about where I want to go, and hopefully lay it out in a way that's compelling to others. And if they disagree, they can see why they disagree.
Right. I love that. Because that's all we can really do is say, this is my highest and greatest ideal of who I want to be.
Right. So it took me a long time to figure that out, and certainly it's evolving, but that's, where I landed. And to quickly jump into give grandma a kiss or mommy a kiss or where's my hug and kiss, it's so deeply ingrained in our culture that we have to hug and kiss people hello and goodbye. And so often it's people we haven't seen in a long time. And that doesn't even mean we don't have genuine affection for somebody that we don't want to hug and kiss. We don't want to hug and kiss them right then and there and do it because we're told to and perform an act of affection that's not genuine. And the message we're sending our children is adults are fragile. They can't handle the rejection of not getting your show of affection. And you need to make them happy at your own expense because that's what's most important. And what that can lead to, and I think very often does, is to people growing up, going further on dates than they feel comfortable, having sex with people they don't want to make the other people happy and not having their own feelings honored. And it's setting, people up for inauthentic relationships where you feel badly.
Right.
And guilty.
Right. And you feel responsible for other people's feelings.
Yes, exactly. And it starts with what you think is simple. Go give your grandma a hug. She drove all the way across town. She brought you that present. We're not, and people hate this analogy, but it turns us into pimps and the grandparents into Johns and our kids into prostitutes. I mean, it's horrible. And yet, we mean so well. We want the interaction to go smoothly, and we want our parents to feel like their grandkids love them and we love them. But
imagine how much better it feels when we say, how do you want this relationship to go? Are we causing resentment by forcing these things that aren't genuine?
Exactly.
Just gets in the way of that relationship, because what we want is for grandma and granddaughter to go to tea and climb, a hill together and look in the mountains and enjoy that time. But if we're always forcing, it just creates resentment and ill will, and that's not at all what our goals are.
I know. Yeah, very well.
And I'm tempted sometimes. I want to be like, oh,
me
good,
too.
Let's go hug. Okay, wait, no. Okay, how do you want to do this? Yeah.
And because little kids are so cute, and because so much of us are missing so much affection in our own lives from our partners, or we want that connection, we put all of that on these poor little children who are innocent, because we can get away with it.
Yeah, right. Except we can't, not really get away with it and meet our long-term goals.
Of course.
Yeah. It's just hard to remember that in the moment, because they are so darn cute, even if we try not to tell them all the time.
Exactly.
This has been great, Jennifer. I am so glad that we had this chat. I'm really excited about your book. Again, the name of her book is ParentSpeak. Do you want to show it again?
Yes, here it is. ParentSpeak. Is it backwards when you guys see it?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's just when I see it. ParentSpeak. What's wrong with how we talk to our children and what to say instead.
Yes.
And you can find me at jenniferlehr.com, and it's Lehr, even though we pronounce it Lehr, Jennifer Lehr, Lehr.com. There's a ton of stuff on my site.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great stuff. You definitely want to check her out. Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you, Amy.
And
thank you.
It was great. It was such a great conversation. Thank you for being here today. If you want to learn more about Jennifer, You can go to my website or her website. If you want to learn about working with me as a parent coach, you can go to parentingbeyondpunishment.com or wildchildcounseling.com. They take you to the same place. So thank you for being here. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Bye.